Okay, great. Where's the next check station? It's not where's the finish line, because there is no finish line in business. Because once you've achieved next goals, then you reset the next goals. But it's what's that next finishing line? And so that's the biggest takeaway. So breaking those goals down into those bite-sized chunks and then chipping away at them literally one step at a time.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast. I'm your host, Monte Raymond. Today, I have James Short on the show. James is a real estate business coach out of Australia who also works with brokers and owners here in the U.S. He's been doing this for close to 2 decades. Here's what I'm going to like about this conversation. James coaches people on stuff that I see every single day, broker owners who are top producers, problem solvers, HR department, the janitor. So pretty much describing myself as a whole here and wonder why they're burning out and their business is not growing. So definitely sounds familiar to me. James, welcome to the show. Let's tell people a little bit, who you are and, what Goals Tribe is and what you're working on right now.
Love it. Fantastic. Really appreciate to be on the show, Monty. Very excited, as I said, to go down some rabbit holes. So I've been a coach within the industry for close to 20 years now. In Australia, as you can tell by the lovely accent, live a lovely place called Byron Bay. You may know the actor Thor, Chris Hemsworth, just down the road from him. So surf's
nice.
up, dolphins are jumping at the moment. We've got whale season, so it's beautiful out there. And we're actually in winter, so it's still nice and balmy. Wife of 29 degrees, 3 amazing kids, ultra endurance athlete as well. So all some crazy stuff that we do around that. But I'm really interested to really explore why do I suck with real estate, because there are so many gold nuggets that we can go down and share some insights of how I help my clients to really achieve some great success.
Well, we obviously reached out to you because, you're good at what you do, and you've been coaching real estate business owners in Australia and the U.S. What's the number one thing, that they all have in common when they first come to you?
It's that I've got so many things that are going on. I'm just so busy. It's just my wheels are spinning so quickly, but I'm not feeling like I'm getting traction. I've got so many conflicting priorities. I've got this, I'm working on that, I'm working on this, I'm working on that. And that's the biggest thing, is that they're working on too many things and they're just not feeling like they're getting traction in anything at all. And so that's why we're looking at what we call busy versus productive. And that's why we peel it right back to find out, okay, what's really going on, but also what's really important for them.
So how do you get someone to see, that when they're deep in it like that?
Right. And that's the thing, because you only know what you know. And it's like when your accountant or your actual bookkeeper say, all right, create a budget. And you see people's eyes glow back and it's like, what do you mean create a budget? Okay, well, you need to start to track where your money's going before you can actually create a financial budget. And they go, okay. And so every week, every dollar where you spend, you write it down or you make a note. And it's the same thing with our time. We can't create and plan our calendars or what I call an ideal week until we know where our time is going. And that's why I usually start with a time budget, time log. Log your time where you're going for the next 2 weeks and watch what happens, because we are creatures of habits. We are creatures of patterns. We are habits for brushing our teeth, putting our shoes on, everything in between. And it's the same thing with our time. And we get the distractions of the bings, the bangs, the notifications from our phones, from our emails, from the computers coming through, fighting for our attention. And when we can identify what those habits are, we can then start to make change. But unless you identify where those habits are of your time, then you can't actually create an actual budget to stick to find out where your time is going. And that's the first key, is let's keep a time log. Once we keep a time log, then you can see those patterns. From there, we can put in what we call the big rocks. What are the things that are most important to you? Like for example, I'd love to do a time log from when you wake up to when you go to bed, because that represents life. It's not just the work time, it's life. So then when we've identified those time pieces, it's what are those big rocks? Your health, your family. Where are you training? Where are you exercising? Where are you looking after yourself? Where you got time with the family, dropping the kids off, picking them up, having date nights, all those key things. Then we look at what are the recurring appointments that you might have. It could be your team meetings. It could be your client meetings. What are those weekly recurring? And then where are the things that we're working on the business versus in the business? Like it might be, okay, I've got to do my bookkeeping. Well, where am I carving out that time each week to actually dedicate that time? Rather than doing bit here, bit there, you actually feel like what's happening is that you're wearing all these hats, right? As a small business owners, we wear all these different hats. And then when the hats are stacked up, we go and we fall over and we burn out. So the thing from there is the key is once we've identified that and once we've planned out that, we've created what's called an ideal week. And so you color code all the different parts of your life of where those key pieces are. Now, this is the game changer where most people stop at. But we're going to, your listeners are high performers and we're going to take it to another level. Now, each of those different key activities or tasks require certain characteristics and behaviors to actually get done. So, for example, when you're in bookkeeper mode, you're accessing the attention to detail, the focus, the dotting the I's and crossing the T's to really have that intention of, okay, where are those dollars going? Compared to when you're on the phone and you may be putting a deal together, you may be more charismatic, more energetic, more bringing you information around the certain properties. So you're accessing two different types of energies or characteristics and behaviors. Where most people get it wrong is that they go from bookkeeping straight to calling, back to bookkeeping straight to calling, and they're like a pinball machine. So they're all over the shop. And they get home, they go, no wonder why I'm so tired or so burnt out. So when we can identify what are the key characteristics between those different activities, then what we do, we get into that certain state, that focus of who do I need to be to achieve that certain outcome and that activity. Then you're locked in. Then you have that designated time to actually achieve that. Then when you move to the next one, it literally takes a 10, 15 seconds break state and you move in. That's when you go from good to great.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that leads me into my next, question here. I would assume at some point you were like in the business, you were productive, right? You just don't go from like not being in real estate to coaching real estate, right? You have to understand it. So I'm assuming, when did you first figure out what that looked like and how to break that down?
Well, I'll give you a little secret. I never have been in the real estate industry.
Really?
Really. So backstory was in the health and fitness industry. I owned a bunch of fitness centers here in Australia and had a bunch of my mates who used to come and train at our centers. And most of my friends, most of my clients, they call me Shorty, last name Short. And they go, Shorty, mate, we know. And then when I sold those businesses, I was going through a bit of identity crisis. I was being Mr. Fit in the fitness industry for 15 years. I was speaking, I was on TV, I was doing all these great stuff. And then I sold them. It was like, who am I? What do I stand for? And then I did some soul searching in front of the mirror, and I found, well, what do I really love? I love helping people, and I love to see the potential in people that they may not see themselves. And so I tapped into that, did some further study, and the mates who actually own real estate businesses, they go, Shorty, mate, we know we love what you do on that space. Can you transfer it into this space? I said, okay. Totally. Yeah. So that's then moved into around leadership, accountability, goal setting, strategy within then the real estate space. And even today, 17 years later, I'm still working with the same clients because once again, we're continually leveling up. So it's been a journey.
So what was it about real estate? I mean, you could have went into all different directions, right? You could have went into fitness. You could have went into, any other business. So what was it?
It was, what I love about real estate is they're very much goal orientated. They're driven. They love to achieve. So they love setting their goals. They're very ambitious. But what I also love is it's very ego driven, the industry. Mm-hmm. And what I love is to actually point out to them and bring the mirror up in front of them and going, hey, is that new suit or is that new car? Can you actually really afford it compared to where you could provide that elsewhere with your family, with your own health? Hey, it's a very toxic industry in a lot of areas. hey, do you reckon you need that fifth drink? Or maybe we get up early and we do an ice bath and a sauna in the morning. And so what I do, I love challenging people to see what really are their priorities, because usually those toxic environments, those wanting to stay ahead, those wanting to
Oh yeah.
wanting to look at that, there's uncovering stuff there. There's the fear of failure, there's the fear of success, the fear of letting people down. And so that's where I love getting into that mindset piece. And when we can unlock that, they just go to a whole nother level, but grounded. They drop the ego. They come from a place of integrity, and it's just beautiful to watch that process.
Same thing happened when I started going and working out. That was 8 years ago, and started doing that and bought my first property, and all those different things that kind of snowballed. So, but that leads into another thing though, is because I got to that point, of success, at least on a relative level, depends on who you talk to, but getting into like the broker owners, building their business, and then also doing it on personal production. I've gotten very good at selling homes. The last 2 years between just myself alone is somewhere about 170, 180 houses, either on the buy side or the sell side. Plus now I have 14 agents, plus this, plus all the other things. I do have W-2 employees, so I have hired people. But that's where it comes into at what point does that become the thing holding me back from success, right? Or at least having a decent work-life balance. And don't get me wrong, I love what I do. It's as much of a hobby to me as it is a profession. But, what's the one thing that would be holding me back then? If you were just taking a quick snapshot of what I told you.
Clarity on goals. So what we do is what's called a wheel of life. And there's 8 different areas on that wheel of life. So there's health, there's family, there's relationships, there's obviously work, there's finances, there's travel or breaks, there's personal development, and there's spiritual well-being, whatever that is for you. And so what I get people to do every month is to rate that wheel out of 0 to 10. 0, it's like, dude, there's just nothing happening in this part of my life right now. 10, no, we're on song, it's all in flow. And so then we mark each 0 to 10 on a spoke of that wheel, and then we join the dots. And we see where the wheel is out of alignment. Sometimes work is 10, sometimes family is 1. Okay, what do we need to do around that? Sometimes health is 3, sometimes investments is 8. Okay, what do we need to do around that? And so when we have those snapshot each month, we can look at, okay, where are we out of flow and where are we out of sync? And sometimes we have seasons. Sometimes we need to go all in and go through certain aspects to get the business where we're at. Sometimes we might have some challenges at home. Okay, we need to go all in there. So it's looking at where that wheel is. But so often I see people just solely focus on their business, and what happens is there's carnage all around them. That's why real estate industry is high divorce rate, because a lot of them are so focused just on building their career. And that's not a problem. Get me wrong, that's not a problem. But what do you really want to create long term?
Right.
And so that's what I would suggest for you is looking at that wheel and where am I out of balance right now? Do that every month and watch what happens, because where our focus goes, our energy flows, and it's a beautiful exercise to do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so how does someone actually make that shift from, I know self-awareness, I'm sure, is probably the answer, right? Like just, hey, I'm obviously doing this exercise because I feel I need to. Like that's probably the first thing, right?
So there's 3 things for change. One is being aware, so doing that exercise. 2 is the willingness. Okay, yes, I know I'm crap at my health and fitness right now. It could be 2 out of 10. I'm willing to do something. All right, great. There's the motivation, the discipline. 3, then you need your strategy. So what is my strategy to move that dial? Now, this is where most people fall down. They try and set too many goals within all those areas. One goal. What would be that one goal that we could just focus on, for example, your health and fitness for this month, that's going to move the dial? What would be that one thing? It could be just going to the gym. It could be just starting to walk, whatever that is. When we try and focus on too many, nothing gets done. I like the saying, how many rabbits do you catch when you're trying to catch 2 rabbits? 0. So it's
Zero.
just focus on one rabbit at a time and watch what happens. Over time, it's amazing what happens when you do that every single month. At the end of the 12 months, you'll be completely transformed.
That's some great advice too, and something that I wrestle with. And I think for me, as the broker and owner, like I feel like I need to know everything, and I think that's the part that's hardest for me. Even, we launched a new website, and so I want to know every single thing about that website so I can take it to my agents and train them. And I'm doing a better job of getting my others to do that. But I think for me, like, I'm assuming you see that all the time, right? Like, broker owners just feel like they have to know everything because we have that, that's just who we're wired that way. But how do you break that cycle?
There's a really good story around Henry Ford. So he was on the stage getting cross-examined. He was in court getting cross-examined. And they go, Mr. Ford, give me the detail of your accounts. He goes, well, I don't know that. You go, why don't you know that? He goes, because I've got a specialist for that. All right, Mr. Ford, give me the description of your manufacturing process. He goes, I don't know all those details. He goes, why don't you know all those details? Because I've got a specialist for that. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's the ability to find out who are the smarter people in the room and leaning on them. Because when we try, because I've been there, done that, when we try to know it all and be across everything, we internalize it and we can feel that tension rising because it's the need of wanting to know it all, but why? And I guarantee, seeing this time and time again, it's wanting to be in control. And when we release some of that control, it's liberating, it's freeing, and it's the ability to leaning on others to actually then what happens is then your business goes up to a whole new level because you've got experts in their areas, and boom, everything takes off.
Yep. And that makes so much sense too. Even when I went on vacation a couple of months ago, I just, trusted my team, and I do trust my team. It's just, again, like that control, I think it is. Like I just had an epiphany moment right there. I was like, maybe it is a little bit control. Just let them learn by failing a little bit. And as long as we aren't, hurting a client or, somebody that's going through a transaction, I think we're okay. So
and we all go through, it, right?
Oh,
we all go through
yeah,
it. There are all ups and downs, and we're all wanting to know what's happening across everything part of the business. So, and that's the thing, right? Right. And that's the thing. I said, mate, what are you doing? He goes, what? This is fun. He's now shift that where it's fun. And because the team onboards it, it's all the processes there, but they've got the right people on the right seat on the bus.
That's so funny. In the last 2 weeks before Rob, because Rob got our COO, he is capacity, right? So, but we were trying to decide which way to go. We were looking into buying businesses that were related to our business. So that's so funny that you bring that up because we're getting really good at what we're doing. So
yeah, right.
So hilarious. Yeah. So how do you hold a team accountable without turning that person into just like a daily check-in?
Yep, perfect. So one, it's getting them to buy in on what those goals are, what's important to them, and it's the ability to then break down what's those daily activities. So I like to work in what's called 2-week sprints. So for example, if you've got over those 2 weeks, you're looking at what's the activity that they control. All right, so it might be a number of calls, might be a number of drops, it might be a number of emails sent. Okay, great. Let's work in calls, for example. So need to be doing 20 calls a day, for example, 5 days, 100 calls a week. Over two weeks, there's 200 calls. Cool. So I like to use a bit of the carrot and the stick approach. So over those 2 weeks, the client's committing to doing 200 calls. What's going to be what's called the reward once you've achieved the activity, not the goal. The goal could be obviously a new listing, new client. What's going to be the reward once you've done the activity? Because now we're creating habits here, right? Okay, It might be take the partner out for a date night. It could be go to the movies. It could be, go for a nice walk in the park. Could go for a surf. Whatever that might be. We need to have the carrot to work towards. Great. Now, here's the kicker. What's the non-reward? What do you mean, Shorty? What's the non-reward if you don't hit the 200 calls? Well, I don't hit the 200. We've got to have a bit of stick in this process. So if you hit 199 or 188, what's the consequence? Oh, well, I don't get the business. No, we need something motivating that's going to go, hell no, I'm not doing that. And so we've come up with some great examples that we've used over the years one in particular, I worked with this client and set the call for the fortnight, for the 2 weeks, and she missed it. And her non-reward, she was going on a health retreat a month after. Her non-reward was to give that health retreat ticket to her biggest competitor with a handwritten note. And she did it. She actually didn't complete the 200 and she actually had to activate that non-reward. Oh my goodness, it was the hardest thing she ever did. But do you think she ever missed her calls again? From that time on, she surpassed her call rate for the last 5 years, because that was the motivation she needed to go from good to great to get that momentum going. So what we need to do is to look at what's the reward, but then what's the non-reward to ensure that motivation, that accountability kicks in.
Yeah, and I like you said, non-reward versus punishment. So,
right?
I mean, there's probably some psychology to that, right?
There is.
So, all right. So what's the sign that a broker owner has crossed the line from accountability into micromanagement, right? Because we want those check-ins, we want the rewards and non-rewards in place. But, what's that broker owner, again, micromanaging seems like a big waste of time a lot of times. And again, it goes back to control.
Yeah, 1,000%. It's looking at, well, what's the intention around it? It's also how, for the owner, it's like, well, okay, cool. What do I need to, where else can I help? What are the other resources do you need? We want to set our team up for success. So whenever you're continually micromanaging, what happens is that we're not giving those team members that freedom. Yes, we've got to obviously ensure that they're doing the activity to achieving their KPIs. But when we get into the micromanagement of it, and what happens is then majority of people know what to do. It's the ability, this gets in their road. So giving them the freedom to not micromanage and letting them to work it out as they progress. And so what we usually do is to do an on-ramp. So maybe that broker may not be experienced or where they need to be. Well, what is that training? What is that 90-day platform, 90-day runway that we need to do as an owner to take accountable for to help them with their success, to map out that 90-day plan so we're not micromanaging them. So they know what those expectations are. You know what those expectations are. So it's really clear up front. And that's, I think, really important. So we're not micromanaging every single day, because you've got better things to do. As owners, we need to obviously then, okay, who's the next recruit? Where's the next big deal coming through? What other areas I need to focus on within the business, rather than looking at, what's Johnny's every single second that he's doing of every single day.
Right. Yep, exactly. So, hey, if you're listening and thinking, yeah, this is me, that is my brokerage, do me a favor, subscribe, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a review if you haven't done that yet. We're going to start talking about the system side of things, because I think that's where we're transitioning over to that, and the stuff that actually buys back your time. So do not go anywhere. Give us a like and a follow. So getting back into that in the systems, when you walk into a brokerage and the owner's doing everything, what's the first system you tell them to build?
So when we go in, we do an audit and we look at all different key aspects of that business. So where's the leads coming through? Where's the conversions? What's that client journey look like? What's the operational side of things? And we map that out of, once again, scaling from 0 to 10. What's the team look like? What's the finances look like? And so firstly is we look at those finances. Where are they tracking with those finances initially? What's working, what's not working? Where are they overspending? Where they might need to look at spending a little bit more? And then from that gives us a really good picture of the psychology around their money as well. Because what I've noticed is that the psychology around running a business, we only know what we know. Unless someone has successful businesses in the past, then there's a roadmap. But unless someone has gone through and actually experienced that, they only know what they know. So they're creating patterns from past bosses, past experiences. So we look at, because majority of people in for business to earn profit. So the ability to where is that money habits going, and then we build from there.
Nice. And how do you think about tech and automation? Because that's a big thing right now. AI, of course. Automating, it's never been easier to develop systems, I think, but it's also an area where you don't want to, again, you're not in a position where you can replace yourself, because this is not how it's going to work, right?
Very excited. It's speeding up so quickly. Some of the automation that we're looking for with clients and their businesses, with particularly on things like compliance, things like checklists, things like marketing campaigns. It's never been as an exciting time right now. The biggest thing is there's those early adopters. But what we find with a lot of staff who may be in their 50s and 60s, they're scared shitless because they won't say it to you, but we can see the automation coming. And so it's like, how do we retrain them to become more client facing, to help maybe even the property management side of things to get more management on, or the sales side of thing to help with the sales relationships because the process is going to be automated. And so how do we then train these team members up to then bring in more business and work that way? Because they know the systems, they know the process, they know the industry. So how do we start to retrain that? So it's definitely exciting times. Watch this space. In the next 6 to 12 months, those early adopters, they're going to go, and their increase in profitability is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, and we're seeing a little bit of that too. But, there's also the other thing of shiny object syndrome too. There's so many things out there already. Where does it actually help, and where do people waste money on tools they're never going to use?
1,000%. It's like the good CRM. Majority of brokers use probably around 10% of their CRM systems,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And they can't even get that right. It's like
Right.
sales brokers are the best at it. Their attention to detail. They love talking to people. They love putting deals together, but get them to put the details into a CRM. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There's always a challenge. So yes, it can be a shiny object, but it's the ability, how do you roll that out? And this is what's called change management. How do we actually go through a change management process to ensure that we're not just throwing money down the gurgle? So you're actually implementing some of these projects for the best return. So that's why actually scoping out these projects initially, what's the risk versus reward, what's the SWOT analysis to these projects to ensure that you're not just chasing another shiny object. So what I look at, okay, where are those blockages? Where are those processes? Where are those processes that are so people reliant? Where can we automate it? And then start to chip away at those key things. So we turn majority work into what we call dollar producing activity rather than just a process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I call it MMA, money making activities. That's what I call it.
Love it. Love it.
Very good. So what's what separates, I guess the question in here is, what separates the ones who make it and the ones who don't? I'm sure you've seen both, right? At this point, 20 some years of doing this. What's the difference between somebody who succeeds and doesn't succeed? Doesn't necessarily even need to be on a broker owner part. I've seen enough broker owners burn out too, and I get that. But even on the real estate agent side of things, what are the things that separate ones from that make it and the ones that don't?
Definitely, I think it's a timing thing. A lot of brokers coming in and want success now and don't realize it's about relationships. And how do you do that? Build relationships over time. A lot of the new brokers are reliant so much on tech, which it can be good, but lose that personal touch, lose that relationship component. We've had a client here, he first started out at 18, whippersnapper, amazing, just all systems go. Now he's the number one agent in Australia, and he writes around $4 to $5 million every single year. And he's done that through his relationships, his integrity, his commitment to his word. He's got a great team around him, but he's built that through those relationships. So I'll give you an example. One client will refer him 5 to 6 people and buy and sell off him 2 to 3 times over a 3-year period. So you think about that compounding every single year. That's based on relationships. It's about being impeccable with your word. It's about follow through what you commit to do. It's the ability to build those relationships over time and lead by example.
Love it. So I would assume your mindset, you're probably built a little bit different. You're doing Ironman, ultra endurance, athletic, things that I don't want to ever do. How does that connect you when you're thinking about building a business? How does that connect you with broker owners? And 90% of this business, in my opinion, is mindset. So I would assume that carries over pretty well for you.
An ultramarathon is exactly like running a business. We're not sprinting. We go through the ups, we go through the downs. You know, a couple of years ago, I competed in a race in the Simpson Desert here in Australia. The Simpson Desert is the world's largest parallel sand dune desert. So if you go on top of one sand dune, all you see is sand dunes out into the distance. And it was a 250-kilometer run over a 4-day period. And you go through all the ups and downs. You know, you go through, what am I doing this? To, oh my goodness, who am I talking to? No one's around me. you go through, you feel like you're running on Mars because the heat, the flies, the severity of it, you're going injuries, you got some highs of like, oh, another check station. It's exactly like running a business. You don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what's coming on, but it's the knowing that, and this is one of the things that I really took away from these races. It's who do I become as a person on these events? But then breaking down the 250 kilometers to check station. So every 5 to 10 kilometers, there's another check station where you refill your water, grab some food. And it's like, okay, great. Where's the next check station? It's not where's the finish line, because there is no finish line in business. Because once you've achieved next goals, then you reset the next goals. But it's what's that next finishing line? And so that's the biggest takeaway. So breaking those goals down into those bite-sized chunks and then chipping away at them literally one step at a time.
That's so good. That's so good. That's a nugget right there. We need to put that one in as a short for sure. So very good. So if you could sit down with a broker owner who's in survival mode right now, if they're at their wit's end, what's the one thing you would tell them?
Stop and let's have a few deep breaths. And then I'd ask them this: why did you get into the business?
There you go.
Why is this important to you? And when we start with the why, things start to get clearer. Because what happened is there's so much noise that comes into people's path that that why gets muddy. So when we come back to the why, it helps us with our clarity, and it helps us with the priority, and then it helps us with what's really important. Then we start the planning process.
Love it. I love it. And so for those agents that are on here, again, we're talking, this episode is mostly about broker owners, but for agents who feel they suck at this, from all the coaching you've done in the past, what's the best advice you can give them as well? Definitely.
So same thing, why you're a broker. Like, what is the thing that excites you about being a broker? Is it working with, is it putting those deals together? Is it seeing that sold ticker? Is it working those relationships? What is it specifically about that? And where are you doing that in your day? And looking at, okay, what are those goals? You might have 30 goals that you can achieve, but what would be that number one goal that we need to focus on just for this month? Focus there, start there, and watch what happens. Because momentum will build momentum, but what happens, we set too many goals and then we don't achieve them, and we get frustrated and we're on that spinning hamster wheel. But if you can just set one clear goal and focus on that for 30 days, watch what happens. It's a game changer.
I love it. So James, where can people find you?
Definitely. So website, jamesshort.com.au, on all my socials, which is Coach James Short, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So reach out, happy to help.
Love it. Very good. And we'll post all of his links. We have all the links for him. We have the Facebook, the Instagram, the YouTube, the LinkedIn. We got personal and company ones. So we'll have them all down in the comments. But James, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. And this has been awesome. I took a couple of nuggets away for myself. It was like, this one was meant to be, especially with a couple of things that have gone on in our brokerage here over the last week. And all is good, all is great. But this was awesome, man. I really appreciate this.
Thanks, Monty. Lovely. Much appreciated.
Love it.
So that's a wrap here on the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast. Thank you so much for spending time with me and our guests. The people you hear on this show really aren't guessing. They've been doing the work. They've been doing it for a long time. They're sharing their behaviors, their habits, their successes, their systems that actually lead to real work, real success. So please subscribe and follow so you don't miss the next conversation. Until next time, remember, you don't suck. You're learning. It's the beginning, or maybe you're in a rut, but you don't suck. So make a few changes, stay curious, stay consistent, and please keep coming back.